Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Catch, Hook, and Shoot. Today is Sunday, November the 4th. I want to say thanks to everybody who's been checking out the show. Thank you for all the downloads. Hope everybody's enjoying it so far. Make sure you're following on Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, all the social media. You can find the show pages at Catch, Hook, Shoot. And, as always, you can find the show on Spotify, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you find your podcasts. And a lot of stuff going on in wrestling this week. Had two WWE pay-per-views this week. One was really, really good. The other was Crown Jewel. But let's get into this real quick here. First of all, I want to cover the Evolution pay-per-view, WWE's first all-women's pay-per-view. Now, a lot of people have been making a big deal. Oh, it's not the first ever all-women's pay-per-view. No, it's not. There's all-female promotions out there like Shimmer and Shine and things like that. Even going all the way back into the 80s, you had the Glow promotion, which was kind of more or less a comedy type show for the most part, but that kind of evolved into a promotion called POW, Powerful Women of Wrestling, which did some co-promoting with the AWA, got it a little more into serious professional wrestling, I guess you could say. So no, it's an Impact has done all women's pay-per-views in the past. So no, it's not the first ever all women's pay-per-view, but it's the first time WWE did it, which, as everybody knows, WWE is the largest professional wrestling company in the world. So it's the first time it's ever been done on that large of a stage, and I have to say they killed it. I mean, it was a fantastic show. Best match of the night by far was Becky Lynch and Charlotte in the Last Woman Standing match. Becky Lynch did retain the SmackDown Women's Championship. Main event, as I pretty much said last week, was Ronda Rousey and Nikki Bella for the Raw Women's Championship. Ronda did come out victorious in that one. I don't think that was really a surprise to anybody. They're building up Ronda to be not really the female Brock Lesnar, but to be on that level. She has shown some vulnerability, and things like that with getting beaten down. So she's not that dominant monster like Brock, which is good. But, they are building her up to be the top woman in the company. And I'd say more than likely she is going to hold that title until WrestleMania. There's been a lot of buzz, especially since Roman had to vacate the Universal Championship. I think pretty much the smart money right now is on the main event of next year's WrestleMania being Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair. Would not surprise me at all for that to happen. Of course, Charlotte would need to win the Women's Royal Rumble in January, which is not a stretch at all, and then challenge Ronda for the Raw Women's Championship. And I'm pretty confident that is going to be the main event, the final match of WrestleMania next year. But like I said, as far as overall, the show was fantastic. Nia Jax won the Women's Battle Royal, so she does have a Raw Women's Championship match coming up at some future date. But the next challenge for Ronda will be at Survivor Series, where it's basically going to be Raw versus SmackDown. So Ronda will be going up against Becky Lynch, champion versus champion, no titles at stake. Should be a great match. A lot of people seem to have a problem with why WWE was putting on Evolution. A lot of people think it was just kind of to appease the women because they couldn't work on the Crown Jewel show. And my take on it is, who cares? Why does the reason make a difference? This was a huge step in their quote-unquote women's evolution. The women, like I said, they stepped up and they killed it. They put on an amazing show, and who cares what the reason was that WWE did it? I mean, of course, they're going to come out and say, that their women they've earned it. The fans demanded it, which is all true. The women, not only deserved it, but did earn every last bit of it, because the women of WWE, they go out there and they leave everything in the ring every single time. Another really good match on the Evolution show was Shayna Baszler against Kairi Sane for the NXT Women's Championship. Shayna Baszler did regain the NXT Women's Championship with a little bit of help from the other two MMA horsewomen, Marina Shafir and Jessamine Duke. So I would think their TV debuts are going to be coming a lot sooner than later. So, again, planting the seeds, getting the MMA 4 horsewomen together. And we'll have to see where that goes. Talking about NXT, Matt Riddle made his debut this week. Again, a fantastic match on his part. I'm really excited to see where he's going to go in NXT, how long he's going to be in NXT before he is called up to either Raw or SmackDown. One note about Crown Jewel, Brock Lesnar did regain the Universal Championship. I'm going to say, unfortunately, I don't think anybody really wanted to see that, but looking at it from Vince McMahon's perspective, I think he made the smart decision. I mean, Brock Lesnar is a draw. He's a big money draw. Anytime he's on a show, it's going to sell tickets. It's going to create a lot of buzz. And especially with him re-entering the UFC here coming up at the beginning of next year, just brings in more of that mainstream MMA audience, even if their only reason is to just crap all over the show. Hey, you know what? They're still watching. It's still putting money in Vince's pocket. It's still putting money into the WWE. So, yeah, it's not the popular decision, but, from Vince's standpoint, I'm sure it was the smart decision. And now you've got, Braun Strowman kind of chasing the championship, which is really kind of an old school way to go. You have the heel champion and you've got the babyface chasing them. That's, the thing you used to see with Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes, or with Harley Race and whoever his big opponent was at the time. A lot of the time that was Ric Flair in that position when Harley Race was the heel champion. So, really kind of an old school mentality on that one. And then again, for Survivor Series, we're going to see Brock versus AJ Styles again. Same match we saw last year, which was a pretty good match. I mean, it wasn't your typical Brock Lesnar squash match. AJ Styles had a really good showing against Brock last year, so hopefully it'll be more of the same this year. As far as the Crown Jewel show, not the greatest show I've ever seen. There were some really good matches, though. Saw Hulk Hogan make his WWE return as the host of the show right at the beginning, which, people are going to have different opinions on that. A lot of people think, he should have never been allowed back at all. Other people saying, he's served his penance, so to speak, and, he's made amends or whatever the case may be. I'm not in any position to make a judgment on that. It's cool to see him back on WWE TV. I don't think we're going to see him like on Raw every week or anything like that. I think it's going to be kind of sporadic appearances, just kind of easing him back into it and, letting people get used to the idea that he is back on WWE TV. So, we may see him only at like major pay-per-views or things like that for the time being. We may not see him again till the Royal Rumble. Who knows? For me personally, I think it was, cool to see Hogan back on WWE television, and I'm sure that was a special request of the Saudi royal family, since they are the ones who finance that entire show, and they basically kind of pick and choose who they want to perform on it. Some people who were not at the show, obviously conspicuous by their absence, was John Cena, who by all accounts just flat out refused to participate, and same thing with Daniel Bryan, not taking part in the show. As a consequence of that, Daniel Bryan had his title match against AJ Styles this past week on SmackDown. AJ Styles retained, won by submission. After the match, was attacked by Samoa Joe, who in turn got the title match at Crown Jewel. Again, AJ did retain, so like I said, coming up at Survivor Series, it's going to be AJ versus Brock Lesnar. Champion versus champion. Also, no titles on the line. We saw on Raw, Bobby Lashley was chosen to replace John Cena in the World Cup tournament. He did lose in his first round match to Seth Rollins, but as it turned out, the brackets and the participants in the tournament really didn't mean a whole lot, because in the final, which was The Miz versus Dolph Ziggler, which should have been a fantastic match with those two guys, they had never put on a bad match anytime they've been in a ring together. The Miz had an injury, a storyline injury, and wasn't able to compete in the match. So Shane McMahon took his place and represented SmackDown himself and won the match. So I guess Shane McMahon now is acknowledged as the best in the world after winning the WWE World Cup. A lot of people not happy about this. I mean, The tournament itself was great. The matchups were great. I was looking forward to a uh, really good final match between Ziggler and The Miz. And but apparently this was the plan all along. At least that's the buzz that's online right now. It's building up to something, something bigger. Apparently, they made mention a number of times about SmackDown pretty much being the B show behind Raw, and so this is apparently going to be building up to something with Shane McMahon wanting SmackDown to be the number one show, which is, I think, probably not far from the truth, because with SmackDown moving to a major network next year on Fox, it probably is going to become the top show in WWE. So it wouldn't surprise me to see Shane McMahon involved in some type of match for Survivor Series for, brand supremacy, so to speak, because that's basically what Survivor Series has been all about the last couple of years. It's Raw versus SmackDown. But we'll get into Survivor Series here in a couple of minutes. Another couple notes from this week on 205 Live: Mustafa Ali won the number one contendership for the Cruiserweight Championship, so he will have a match coming up against Buddy Murphy sometime in the near future. Possibly on the Survivor Series kickoff show, maybe, who knows. I already talked about Matt Riddle making his debut. Another interesting note from NXT: Fabian Eichner and the Street Profits won championships in Evolve. So that's I believe that's a first, with NXT contracted wrestlers winning championships in an independent. Of course, Evolve is one that WWE does have a working relationship with. So we'll have to see where that goes. Are those championships going to make appearances on NXT television, or how's all that going to work out? As far as Crown Jewel went, like I said, Hulk Hogan did make an appearance at the very beginning of the show. Came out, greeted the crowd, things like that. He was billed as the host of the show. Probably the biggest news for me with Crown Jewel was the fact that Renee Young was part of the announce team. Now, this to me is a huge step in the right direction. I mean, yes, she was working as an announcer, but she was working on the show. There was a woman working on a show taking place in Saudi Arabia, which is a first. So I don't know if that was kind of a concession that was made by the Saudi government for WWE, honoring their contract and still putting on the show amidst all the controversy that's been going on. Whatever the case may be, again, the reasons to me really don't matter. It's a huge step in the right direction. Of course, they were respectful of the customs of the country. Renee was basically covered from her neck down. The only skin exposed was her face. Which of course you have to honor the customs and the traditions, and in this case the laws of the country. And something that you saw a lot of, and apparently this was by design, on camera, you saw a lot of the women and kids in the audience, and I'm pretty sure that was just to kind of drive home the point, like, this is, that progress is being made despite all the kind of shady goings on the last couple of months. An interesting note with as far as the announcers as well, they did not mention Saudi Arabia once during the entire broadcast. They mentioned the city of Riyadh. They mentioned the name of the stadium that they were in. They did not say the word Saudi Arabia at all during the entire broadcast. They really kind of downplayed where they were, and there wasn't all the quote-unquote propaganda that there was from the Greatest Royal Rumble pay-per-view, talking about the how Saudi Arabia is progressing and moving into modern times and things like that. There was none of that to be seen anywhere. It was just it was a straight wrestling pay-per-view. They in the advertisements that they showed, like for the Rumble coming up and things like that, when they talked about the women's matches, they didn't use the standard graphics with the pictures of the women in their wrestling gear or anything like that. A good example is with Ronda Rousey. It wasn't her typical shot of her standing there holding the championship wearing her wrestling gear. It was a more close-up, more like a headshot, wearing one of her t-shirts, one of her Rowdy t-shirts, again, not showing any exposed skin other than her face, but they like I said, they did advertise, women's matches and things like that. So, I think WWE made the best that they could out of a bad situation. A lot of people were not happy with the show. I mean, like I said, the thing with Shane McMahon was kind of a curveball, a little bit of a swerve. A lot of fans were upset about that. I think that was probably the biggest thing that people were upset about. Because I think a lot of people wanted legitimately to see this tournament play out, and especially with The Miz and Dolph Ziggler being in the final, that's a match that I think pretty much anybody and everybody would want to see, myself included. Of course, the main event of the show, the last match of the show, was the tag team match between D-Generation X and the Brothers of Destruction. DX did come out on top in that one. Sounds like Triple H was injured during the course of that match. Suffered a torn pectoral muscle, which is going to require surgery. So he's probably not going to be back in the ring for quite a while. And, it looks like from the rumors and innuendo, quote unquote, online, the original plan for WrestleMania was to have The Rock wrestle Roman Reigns, and when Roman unfortunately had to announce his illness and give up the Universal Championship, I think it kind of fell to Triple H to take that spot to wrestle The Rock. Now with Triple H being injured, the likelihood of him being in wrestling shape by WrestleMania is pretty slim. So I think they may be scrambling to find another opponent for The Rock, if he in fact is even going to wrestle. I mean, that's not even something that's been officially acknowledged by WWE, so at this point it is just a rumor. So you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt. I'll believe it when I see it. I'll put it that way. I'm not counting on seeing The Rock wrestle. After the last match he had with WWE, he suffered a pretty serious injury, which caused some issues with some movies he was filming at the time. Schedules had to be changed and ended up costing a lot of people some money. So I think for him to get back into the ring, there a lot of pieces would have to fall into place and line up perfectly. So I'm not counting on seeing The Rock back in the ring anytime soon. Now, making appearances, that's something completely different. Just showing his face, talking to the crowd, doing promos, things like that. That's a totally different story. That wouldn't surprise me, just to see him show up and make an appearance. But to see him in the ring, I'm not counting on that at all. Some more news. International news, New Japan Pro Wrestling had another event this week. This was Chris Jericho's Intercontinental Championship defense against Evil. He did come out victorious on that one, so he is still the IWGP Intercontinental Champion. It'll be interesting to see, how long he holds on to that championship and how long he's planning on working with New Japan. Haven't really heard any rumblings about who his next opponent might be. I read possibly could be Naito again. So we'll have to see how that's all going to shake out. Some more news from New Japan / Ring of Honor. The last couple weeks, I talked about it last week, that Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, Hangman Page, Marty Scurll all put out their last Bullet Club style t-shirts, and of course that started all the rumor mills going. Oh, are they leaving New Japan? Are they signing with WWE? Are they going to make an announcement? Basically, the only announcement that was made is that they are no longer in the Bullet Club. They are now known just as the Elite. They're no longer like a sub-faction of the Bullet Club. It's just, Cody, Kenny, the Bucks, Hangman Page, Marty Scurll, and I would think probably Kota Ibushi too would at least be considered a fringe member, but those gentlemen are now known as the Elite, no longer part of the Bullet Club. And apparently the new Bullet Club leader is Jay White, and of course that's the faction of the Bullet Club, also known as the Firing Squad, with the Samoan contingent, Bad Luck Fale, Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, and all those guys. So I'm wondering if they're going to continue like the rivalry between the Bullet Club and the Elite. I haven't seen too much about that, but then, of course the Jericho Cruise was this past week, so those guys weren't really involved in the anything going on with New Japan too much. Cody Rhodes is still the IWGP United States champion, so we'll have to see. I'm sure there's going to be some some type of blow off to that feud. It would really surprise me if there wasn't. I can't see New Japan just kind of leaving that dangling there and not bringing any kind of closure to it. So we'll have to see how that one plays out. Yeah, so next big show coming up for WWE is a Survivor Series coming up in 2 weeks from today. Cards already starting to take shape, and like last year, it's going to be pretty much Raw versus SmackDown for brand supremacy, quote unquote, and the main event of the show, obviously, I think is going to be Brock Lesnar versus AJ Styles, Universal Champion versus World Champion. It's a rematch from last year. The two of them put on a really good match, I thought. So looking for more of the same. I'm going to have Seth Rollins, the Intercontinental Champion, taking on Shinsuke Nakamura, the United States Champion. This is the match I'm looking for to steal the show. I mean, these are two of the best wrestlers in WWE right now. And yeah, I mean, if they just let these two guys go out there and go, that's going to be the match of the night. That's the one that my money's on for stealing the show right now. Again, we've got Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch, Raw Women's Champion versus SmackDown Women's Champion. They've already kind of started the smack talking back and forth. This, again, I think is going to be an awesome match. Ronda Rousey has really upped her game in the ring and is becoming a really, really good pro wrestler. Which I think kind of pisses a lot of people off. I don't know why. I think people, especially MMA fans, I think they wanted to see her fail for some reason because she, just because she did leave MMA after her last two losses. But you know what? Hey, she's following her dream of being a WWE superstar, and she is thriving. She's doing probably having the best rookie year of anybody I've ever seen in wrestling, and I don't mean just women. I mean in general. So, I mean, the only person that even comes to mind that could probably be on the same level as far as how their rookie year went would be Kurt Angle. So that's some pretty elite company for Ronda to be in. The kind of a question mark for Survivor Series is the tag team champions, because on SmackDown side, of course, you've got the Bar, who are the SmackDown tag team champions. The Raw tag team champions right now are Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins, and I think everybody kind of knows how that's going. I don't expect them to be in that match against the Bar. I don't see Seth wrestling twice, and I definitely don't see him wrestling as a partner with Ambrose, considering Ambrose had that heel turn a couple weeks ago and turned on Seth. So I would expect in the next 2 weeks to see new Raw Tag Team Champions crowned, and they would be the ones facing off against the Bar at Survivor Series. And I think we're going to have probably at least two traditional 5-on-5 Survivor Series matches: the Raw men versus the SmackDown men, and the Raw women versus the SmackDown women. Haven't really had any news about who's going to be on any of those teams. The Raw men, I would expect to see like Braun Strowman, Bobby Lashley, possibly like Finn Balor, maybe Dean Ambrose. There's tons of talent on both shows, so they have an opportunity here to create just an utter dream match, a 5-on-5 dream match. Same thing with the women. The Raw women, I think more than likely you would probably see Sasha Banks, Bayley, possibly Alexa Bliss, Nia Jax. You can see some interesting groupings, so it'll be cool to see how that plays out over the next 2 weeks. On the NXT side for Survivor Series weekend, we're going to be having the War Games pay-per-view from NXT. The War Games match itself was announced this week. On one side, we're going to have the War Raiders, Ricochet, and Pete Dunne taking on Undisputed Era. Now, I know I had mentioned this, I think last week, but it was the official announcement was on this week's episode of NXT, so they are going back to the 4-on-4 format, which I like. I seriously doubt they'll have the ceiling on the cage this time. I'm sure it'll still be an open top 2-ring cage like before. But it's good to see it's going back a little more traditional to the 4-on-4 format. I would personally like to see it back to the 5-on-5. But maybe because of time constraints or something like that, who knows? But that should be. I mean, those are really 8 of the top guys in NXT. And you've got the tag team champions, the UK champion, and the North American champion participating in that match. So you're not going to see any of those titles defended on the War Games pay-per-view, but you are going to see the NXT Championship match with Tommaso Ciampa taking on Velveteen Dream. I'm picking Ciampa to retain in this one. I don't think they're going to take the title off of him quite so soon. And another match that looks like they're building up for War Games, they haven't officially announced this one yet, is Johnny Gargano versus Aleister Black. We've seen Johnny Gargano make a heel turn in the last couple of weeks. He was apparently the one who attacked Aleister Black in the parking lot and injured him and put him out for a few weeks. So that, to me, Gargano and Aleister Black are the two top guys in NXT right now. Arguably, of course. You could make the argument for Velveteen Dream, Tommaso Ciampa, Ricochet, any number of guys. NXT has a ridiculous amount of talent at the moment, but for my money, Gargano and Aleister Black are my personal two favorites in NXT, and I will say probably the two best wrestlers in NXT right now. And so that's pretty much all the news for the week. On the more controversial side, Pro Wrestling Illustrated put out their top 100 women issue or list this week, and interestingly enough, the number one place on that list went to Ronda Rousey. This has people up in arms all over the place, and rightfully so, I'm going to say. Ronda Rousey, as great as she is, and I just got finished talking a couple minutes ago about how much she has progressed since she made her debut, but let's face it, she's had a handful of matches in the last 6 to 7 months. She made her debut at WrestleMania in April, and this is November. So she the period of the evaluation period for this list was October 1st of 2017 through September 30th of 2018, and Ronda has only worked half of that period, and not that's just because that's when she was signed. She made her debut. Technically made her debut as a WWE superstar in January, but didn't have her first match until WrestleMania. So she has only participated in 6 months of that evaluation period, yet they place her at number one after only a handful of matches. I kind of get it, because she is a mainstream name. She has done a lot in that 6 months to elevate WWE in general, as well as the WWE Women's Division. But to put her at number one that quickly, I think is kind of a slap in the face to a lot of the other women who have been wrestling full time for much longer than her. The rest of the top 10, I think, is pretty, I don't know if it's spot on, but these women definitely deserve their place there. The rest of the top 10 is Alexa Bliss, Charlotte Flair, Io Shirai, Asuka, Shayna Baszler, Carmella, Nia Jax, and Mayu Iwatani from the Stardom promotion. She is the only independent wrestler in the top 10. All the rest are WWE competitors. And another part of this list that kind of rubbed people the wrong way is the fact that Becky Lynch came in at number 11, and she is arguably right now the top female superstar in WWE. She's right up there with Ronda Rousey as far as fan popularity. So I can definitely see a case being made for her that she should have been in the top 10. The only thing I can think that kept her out of the top 10 is that she has not been involved in any major storylines for quite a while up until recently. So that I'm sure that's probably the thinking behind it. But there's a lot of people that are unhappy with this list, to say the least, and I don't really agree with it either. Nobody from Impact, no independent stars, nobody from Ring of Honor, or Lucha Underground or New Japan or anything, in the top 10. It's all WWE superstars, which, I'm not knocking any of them. Every woman in WWE right now has earned their spot, and there's really nobody on the roster that I can say that is a poor performer. Even Carmella, who I would say was probably, the least talented WWE performer, has in the last year improved by leaps and bounds, both on the microphone and in the ring. A lot of people would disagree with that. They want to say, oh, Carmella sucks, or especially the Bellas. The people want to talk about how horrible the Bellas are and everything like that. And, I think it's more that, their personalities that people have a problem with. And I know a lot of people wanted to get down on Brie Bella for some of the incidents that happened since she's returned, and she actually hasn't had a match in a little while since the injury happened to Liv Morgan a few weeks ago. So, I mean, I get it, but I think people are way, way too harsh. And quite frankly, I'll say what I said before, unless you've been in that position, unless you've been in the ring, you don't have any room to judge or critique, and I'll say I don't either. I mean, I actively try not to come down hard on performers, because it's like, these men and women are working 200 to 300 dates a year. They're on the road daily, and they go out there in front of thousands of people every night and leave everything that they have in the ring. And stuff happens sometimes. You have an off night, you miss a spot, you miss a move, whatever the case may be. It's not the end of the world, and I don't think they should be just automatically damned for making a mistake or having an off night. But anyway, back to the PWI 100. It just seems very skewed, I guess you could say. I mean, yeah, Ronda is probably the biggest mainstream name that WWE has right now, and she is the Raw Women's Champion. Raw, of course, is the top show for WWE. And Ronda has probably had the best first 6 months of any professional wrestler in history. But should she be ranked number one of every female wrestler in the world right now? I don't think so. And I mean, she even seemed shocked when she was informed that she was in that spot, and she kind of said, she even said she didn't think she deserved it. So, I like the fact that she's humble and, doesn't want to take all the credit herself. She wants to be, part of the WWE team, so to speak. And I think that's really, good on her part, that she's not trying to take all the credit for all of the advancements that the women in WWE have made over the last few years. So, I mean, it is what it is. The PWI writers, I mean, whatever criteria they base this on, they saw fit to put Ronda at number one, but I think they really kind of hurt their own credibility quite a bit with this list, especially, with Becky Lynch not being in the top 10, Ronda Rousey being put at number one. I'm not saying she shouldn't be on the list, possibly even in the top 10, but number one, I think it's a little premature. But again, these are just my opinions, folks, so I am by no means the authority or the end-all be-all on any of this. But yeah, for my money, I mean, Becky Lynch definitely belongs in the top 10. I think Sasha Banks probably belonged in the top 10. I think she was ranked at number 14. But she has had some injury issues, so she has been out of the ring a bit this last year or so. But again, it's 100% subjective. It's not like it's not like you can go by wins and losses, because as everybody knows, that part is predetermined. So all you can do, this is basically a list of, who do we like the most, is pretty much all it is. It's basically a popularity contest, and if that's the case, then yeah, I think Ronda's probably the most popular female superstar in WWE right now. But again, it is what it is. It's completely subjective. It's all just a matter of opinion, just like any other top 10, top 20, top 5, whatever you're going to do. Like the show that I did with all the different top 5 lists. It's all based on opinion. So, I know a lot of people are upset, like really upset about this, and saying all kinds of not so nice things about PWI and things like that. But it's not. I don't think it's something to get quite that upset about. Do I agree with the list? No, I don't. Is it gonna cause me to lose any sleep? No, it's not. It's one group of people's opinions, and they, by their opinion, they think Ronda Rousey is the best in the world right now as far as women wrestlers go. So it is what it is again. But that's pretty much all I've got for this week. Like I said, Survivor Series coming up in a couple of weeks. I've got some really exciting stuff coming up for the show. I'm not gonna let the cat out of the bag just yet, but I'm gonna have two very, very special episodes coming up in the next 3 months or so. One probably later this month, and then another one coming up in January. I'll say that much. But until I get everything 100% confirmed, I don't want to say too much. But just keep listening, keep checking out the show. Again, you can find it on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, YouTube, Podbean, any place you find your podcast. And please make sure you're following the show on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. Again, search Catch, Hook, Shoot on any of those platforms. You'll be able to find the show. On any of the podcast platforms, search Catch, Hook, and Shoot with the little ampersand sign instead of the word and. And if you ever want to shoot me an email, it's catchhookshoot@gmail.com. And, I'd love to hear from you guys. Feel free to leave any questions, comments, critiques, anything you'd like me to talk about, anything you'd like to see on the show or hear about, anything like that. Just anything you want to say. I welcome it all. So I'm going to wrap this up for this week. I hope everybody has a good week. I hope everybody is staying warm. Weather's getting cold out there, at least here in Chicago it is. And I will talk to you guys soon. Have a good one.